Welcome to Confessions of a Wannabe It Girl. I'm your host, Marley Freygang, and I'm here to help you filter out all the bullshit and become the next It Girl. This podcast explores the reality of what it really takes to make it out there. As it turns out, it is way less Instagrammable than I thought it was going to be. I'm still very much a work in progress, but there's simply nothing else I'd rather be doing than chasing my dreams. So let's learn from my mistakes and work together to achieve our dreams with more confidence, clarity, and direction. Let's get after it.
So many of my friends that I'm close to, and even me right now, we're like in this transition. It's like we're not quite doing what we were doing, and we're not quite doing what the next level is. We're like walking to the door to open. Yeah.
I feel that so
Everyone
much.
is in such a transitional place right now, and I love it because I'm like, we're all going to be doing what actually feels the best for us. We're just like figuring out how to get to that point, and it's exciting.
Well, I'm already rolling because I was like, this is kind of good, and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So if you guys didn't recognize, Monica is back on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about a huge concept, yet something I feel like you can implement every day.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about manifesting, being the best version of yourself, living into your truest, highest potential. Massive topic, but we're going to dive into it. So can you first just give us the context of I just kind of hate how it feels a little commercialized these days.
Yes.
The term manifesting even is.
I am so glad that you started with this because anytime I talk about manifestation, I always like preface with what it actually means. Because especially with social media, and social media is wonderful. It's such a great tool. Yet we got to remember that it's like literally this two-dimensional thing. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing you right now as opposed to the podcasts of yours that I watch. Like, it's totally different.
Yeah.
So manifestation, to manifest something, literally, if you like look up the definition, all it means is for something to become physical. And I feel like on social media, so many people are like, I'm manifesting, and you see them like meditating and like journaling, and you're like, yes, that's definitely a part of it. That is not what it means. Manifestation is simply just to become physical. So like when you plan to go to the grocery store and you go and you come home and get your groceries, that's manifestation.
So simple.
You manifested going to the grocery store. It's just I feel like, have seen it as this thing that's like either very spiritual or very just out there, or like this meta concept. And it can be, yet it doesn't have to be. And I remember when I first heard that grocery store thing, I was like, I've been looking at manifestation wrong this whole time.
I think, because I've definitely had the wrong impressions of it, I think. Maybe I live a little bit still in that space too. It's kind of like the idea the world will give you something.
Yes.
And I'm like, actually, isn't it really like you got it for yourself and you put yourself in the right places and you worked hard and it came? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the confusing part, because like, you can go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, you can take yourself to the grocery store.
Yep.
Yeah, it's and it's become a very trendy topic. And people love to say like they manifest everything in their lives. And like, I get that if the example is I go to the grocery store. But when people are like, all this stuff just came to me, I'm like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah, I think it depends, because like, so how I see it is there's a physical aspect to it where like if I want to go to the grocery store, I have to get up, get in the car and go and pick out all my stuff and pay and come home. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the mental aspect of it, or also the spiritual aspect of it, which is like seeing it happen. Because when I'm thinking about I got to go to the grocery store, I'm picturing what aisle do I go down? What foods am I getting? If I have my grocery bags that I take so that I can avoid the plastic or paper, right? So it's like, it is both, because before something can become physical, it has to be in your mind first. Like, nobody designed this microphone without thinking what it was going to look like and what features it was going to have and how it was going to be helpful. Mm-hmm. They had to think about it first. And then they started figuring out, okay, how am I going to make this?
Right.
So it's multiple aspects. And I feel like I've definitely had crazy manifestation experiences where like it just came out of nowhere, yet it didn't come out of nowhere. It just... I feel like it's because, the strongest sense we have is our sight.
Okay.
Anyone who studies the brain or psychology will know that the parts of our brain with senses that has the most information with it is your eyesight. So because we can't see things happening all the time, when something does manifest for us, we're like, oh my God, it came out of nowhere. But in reality, someone had to call somebody else to tell them something to then get you this piece of information to like, it's a whole process. We just don't see it. So we think it came out of nowhere, yet it didn't just come out of nowhere.
That's a really interesting way of looking at that, because I have never thought about that, because I think we do get lost so much in the, I'm putting out this exput, and I'm not seeing any traction, or I'm not seeing any of my work that's been put out. So yeah, that makes total sense that visual is really going to make you think it just came out of nowhere, but really the groundwork has been laid. I want to like go back a little bit where you said you've, had crazy manifestation and whatnot. Can you kind of tell us the baby steps of getting there, what that was like? How did you do it?
Yes. Okay. So the first thing that comes to mind when I say this, because I have many different experiences that I could share, and even just things on a daily basis, like where I'll think of someone and then they text me 30 seconds later, something like that. So with grad school, when I was an undergrad, I had this plan. I mean, even before, like when I was applying to undergrad, I was like, I'm going to get my undergrad. I'm going to go get my PhD. I'm going to go work in psychology, like all this stuff. And when I was applying, I kind of had this like mini life crisis, and I decided to go for my master's instead of my PhD. And I had only applied to one school and 2 programs. And usually if you're applying to schools, you do like at least 5 to 7 schools. With psychology, with grad school, like a lot of other sciences, you have to make a point of contact for the professor you're going to be working with, what lab you're going to be in. So like there's a lot of like things you have to do before you actually apply. Mm-hmm. And I remember my parents were like, shouldn't you apply to like another school, like other programs? I was like, no, because I wouldn't even go. Like if I applied to other programs and I got in, but I didn't get into the one I actually wanted to be in, I wouldn't go to those. And yes, I was a great student. I had a lot of things under my belt. I had a lot of experience. Like on paper, I was a really great candidate. Yet I also at that time started learning about like consciously manifesting, because we're always manifesting. Like it's just to become physical. It doesn't stop. We're just learning how to do it in a conscious way. So I started learning about manifestation consciously. And without realizing it, I was using something called the law of assumption. I don't know it. Okay, yeah, so we'll talk about definition. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. So, because I'm sure you've heard the law of attraction, which is like attracts like. And then there's also the law of assumption, which is basically the same thing. There's a little bit of nuance. The law of assumption is that whatever you assume, because your assumptions create your beliefs, that's what's going to create your reality. And I unknowingly used the law of assumption with grad school just because I was learning about manifestation. And it's funny because I revisited the law of assumption earlier this year for my business. And then I was like, oh my God, I was doing this without even realizing it for grad school. So anyways, long story long, with grad school, I had to put in my applications. There was 2 programs that I applied for. One was like a plan B, and the other one was like, I really want to get in this one. And it was more exclusive. Less people were able to come in, and I had done the early bird applications or whatever. And before I had even like put in my application, I was thinking about the next steps. I was like, where am I going to live? What am I going to do for money? How is my life going to change? And what is my day-to-day going to look like? Because I had already decided I was going to go to that program. I was going to be in that school. And sometimes I feel like people get caught up in manifestation because they're unsure of what they actually want. And that's why you'll hear people say like, get specific. You got to know all the details, which you don't have to know all the details. But anyhow, I had like, for me in my mind, it was done. Like I was going there. I didn't have a, what if I don't get in? Like that thought wasn't even there. And it wasn't because I knew about manifestation. It was just like, that was the plan, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It was just so duh to me. And because of that belief that I had, I submitted my application on a Friday, and I literally 4 days later, they were like, congrats, you've been accepted to the program you want to be in. And I was like, I manifested this. Not because I meditated and I thought about it, not because I was a good candidate and I was worried about getting in, but because on paper I looked great and I knew that it was just the right next step. if that makes sense.
100%. I think that's something that I have noticed with people that I've seen things really work out with. It's just like it was in the right place as you were in the right place. Like it wasn't like a huge reach. It wasn't like I'm going to make $5 million in 4 days, which is like maybe for somebody not a huge leap, but like at the moment it's just like all you've really encompassed the network, the grades, the place you're at mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it may be. It's right there. And so it's just like things that aren't out of your reach, you won't actually naturally have doubts about, and it will full send it. But I do getting personal with it as, I'm a very anxious person. I live like in a very neurotic, catastrophizing place. And so for people like me, when we hear manifesting, it's like whatever you think all the time is what you're going to experience. How do you combat that? And maybe things are reach for me sometimes, but like, what if also just all the time I'm catastrophizing and the things aren't really that much out of a reach?
Yeah, I love that you said that because, again, like on paper, I was a great candidate. So like, yeah, of course I got in. A lot of people would be like, that's not manifestation. Yet it is. It is still manifestation.
It's the car part of going to the grocery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. With the whole like everything you think will manifest or whatever, it's more so about your core beliefs and your subconscious mindset beliefs. And sometimes we literally don't even know that like we have a belief about something simply because that's just how we were raised. So I'm sure you've heard like for the first 7 years of your life, you get your programming or whatever. I like to think of it, especially like from the psychological standpoint, like your brain is a supercomputer. And just like your MacBook, it has programs on it. It's going to run the programs that are on it. It's going to run whatever it's told. That's the same thing with our brain. We live in a society which, as unfortunate as it is to say, if we have awareness of it, we can overcome it, because I have had a lot of issues with anxiety myself, and just like not knowing if something's going to work out, not knowing how it's going to work out, just like spending so much mental energy on something that doesn't even exist, right? When we can reprogram what we tell our brain to think and the stories, because everything in your mind is like a story, right? I like to call them either green light stories or red light stories, kind of like when you're driving the car. When you see a red, you're going to stop. When you see a green, you're going to go. We create those stories in our mind. And it's almost like it's so simple that we don't believe it.
Yeah.
When you change the programs in your mind, then your reality will start to change and reflect that. And so it's not like if you get this one thought about like, because we all have these thoughts, it's going to be a little bit dramatic, but like, oh, what if I cross the street and like I get run over and like someone kills me?
Oh yeah, no, like
right?
We all have that thought,
those crazy out there thoughts, but like that is our norm because we've been programmed that way. And our society is programming us through fear, through uncertainty, through indecision, all of these different things. We don't actually have to be like that. And that was one of the things on my healing journey that I really learned. I was like, oh, I don't have to identify as a sick person. I don't have to see myself as someone that's not healthy. And once I started changing that programming, then my body started changing. And it's, again, we can't see it. So we're kind of confused by it because we don't have the senses to see certain things. It's not a physical thing. Like, yeah, that's the thing. There's so much that lives like above our heads and like not intangible things. Like, people get stressed out by status and what, like nobody like can physically touch status, and yet we put so much weight into things that are not physical. And it's the same with this. Like so much of this lives in our heads and in our hearts and in the world up here. Like how touching it can be very hard to grasp. Yeah, and going back to what you said about the just like anxiety and neurotic things, because there's definitely certain aspects to like our personalities that play a part too. Yet your personality is just your personal reality. So, and that's from Dr. Joe Dispenza. I did not come up with that myself. It's good. It is your personal reality of it. It's all coming from you because your brain, especially your subconscious mind, is responsible for over 90% of everything around you. I mean, we're not thinking about blinking. We're not thinking about our heart pumping blood. We're not thinking about breathing. Like, that's your subconscious mind is literally working for you 24/7. And that is like it's funny because it's multiple things. It's like the frequency receiver. It's also the output. It is also the filter for things. So there's a part of your brain, it's called the reticular activating system.
Wow.
You don't have to understand what it means. Okay. What it does, it's like the gatekeeper of your brain. We have so much stimulation on a daily basis. Consciously, we can't take it all on because we would just go into overdrive. It's like running every single program on your computer and trying to use them at the same time. That's not going to work. Some windows got to get minimized. That's like how your brain is able to keep you alive and operating and focused on things that are important. So like you and I right now, we're focused on each other in this podcast. Our reticular activating system is taking control of what we're letting in because this is the most important thing. So we're not thinking about anything else that's happening around us, yet it's still happening. So one of the best examples for understanding how the RAS system works is when you're getting a car. When you start looking for cars, and then guess what? You start seeing that car everywhere around you.
So true.
That's the reticular activating system. So it's not that there's necessarily more cars around you. There could be more of that one car around you. Yet your system, because you're focused on maybe getting it for yourself, then you start seeing it all around you. So when you prime yourself for something, that's programming. When you program yourself for something, it's going to naturally come out. So if I believe that the world is against me, I have the worst luck, phrases that we've heard like, you know, when is the shoe going to drop? If I have that belief around myself, that's what my brain will filter out because that's what I am, whether it's conscious or not, choosing to focus on.
Yeah.
If I believe, and this is why the whole lucky girl syndrome thing became a thing, because if you really do believe that everything is working out for you, everything is, you're the luckiest person in the world, that is what's going to happen. And I think because it's so simple, we're like, no, it can't be that simple for you, but it really is. And I feel like that's the hardest part of, you know, becoming your higher self or all these things that we hear on social media of like living your best life is just truly believing that we can have it.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It's the hardest part because it's so simple and we are so overstimulated and we are so like just every day is a lot, you know, the phone screen, whatever, you're constantly inundated with information. It is hard to just be that, I'm going to use another like buzzword, grounded and present with being, this is going to work out for me. Like it is hard because there is so much going on and every day it only becomes a higher number than it was the day before. Because we look at 10 years ago, there was not that much advertisement that we consumed. And like that compared to the amount in advertisement our parents like would take in is insane. So it's very hard to just keep yourself like that simply focused on this is going to work for me. And, you know, I do think that's actually a huge part of having anxiety is whatnot is you are just too aware of the amount of range that is out there in the world. And I do say this and it's like a cute phrase, but I don't mean it in the deepest. It's not that deep. Like ignorance is bliss. And like, you know, if you are like a little dumb about it or you act a little dumb about it, like your life will be a little easier for you because it's just, but the truth of it is you're keeping it simple. Like you're keeping it simple. And that's a really, really hard place to be. How do you find this place? How do you stay in this place?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a practice. I really like that you said grounded and present because like the example that comes up to me, let's take the same person for two different mindsets that will cause two different experiences. So let's say that I don't believe that things are working out for me. I am generally more like nervous, or I honestly don't even like the word anxious because the meaning has changed.
And it's broad.
I feel like when I was a kid, this is just a side note, and I knew that I had like a field trip the next day, me and my friends would be like, I'm so anxious. And it was a good thing. Yeah. It was like, we're excited, we couldn't sleep, and now anxiety has such a different meaning. Anyways, that's just a side note.
No, but it's important. I think the range of definition has expanded.
Yeah, it has. And again, that stimulation too is definitely part of it. So anyways, the person who doesn't believe things are working out for them, let's say they're running behind for an appointment and they can't find a parking spot. They're not grounded. They're not present. They might not even realize they just drove past a car that's going to reverse, but their reverse lights are out and you didn't even realize it because you're not in the moment. You didn't even see that they're actually about to pull out. You drive past them. You're like, there's no spots. Versus the person who's like, I'm running a little bit behind, but it's okay because everything always works out for me. Maybe I ran behind because I was going to avoid an accident that I would have been in had I been on time. And because you're so grounded and present, you're like, oh, that person's going to reverse, but their lights don't work. And so then you wait, and then you get the spot, and you actually end up being on time. So when it comes to really getting that, making it simple for yourself, I think it's really important to differentiate ease from simplicity, because a lot of times we think that just because something is simple means that it will be easy, and they're not quite the same thing. It's very simple to say, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do a meditation, and I'm going to choose for my day to be great. That's simple. Is it easy? No.
It's really, really hard.
It's not always easy. And so when I had that, you could call it a breakthrough of that, differentiation, I would realize that, okay, it's simple and I can do hard things. Because it's a really deep inner work to actually believe that you can have something you want, especially when it seems far-fetched. Like what you were saying, for me, grad school didn't seem very far-fetched. I had things on paper, yet there are other things that I've manifested that I felt like I would have never been able to do. And I'm still the same me. I still know that I can really, you have to really understand you can have anything, you can be anything, you can do anything. Nothing is off limits. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. And really it's just simply believing in that. So it depends on where you are in your beliefs, right? If I don't believe that I can make $10,000 by the end of today, then trying to do that is going to just give me a headache. I could maybe believe that I could manifest $100 by the end of the day. That might be a little bit easier for me. Even though it's not actually more or less, we just make it more or less because of our perception. It's that belief and knowing. So again, with the ease and simplicity, and then just if you allow yourself to make the choice and allow the choice to be simple and allow the choice to be easy in the sense of, I know I can do it, then you're just practicing that over and over and over again.
Yeah. I love what you're saying there, because I think that goes back to, it's a little bit about consistency with being in that place, consistent. The first time you do it, it's not going to be great. The next time it's going to get better, and it's going to get better. And I always equate that to kind of like working out. You get stronger at it the more you practice. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying about my imagery of it is hilarious, but selecting what you're going to choose to see. To me, I'm on literally crack cocaine or something. It's like putting pasta in a colander. You're shifting out what you don't want, which in this case is the water. You want the pasta. You're choosing to keep that part. You could just as easily keep the water, but you don't. You can let that go down the drain. That's literally what my brain is thinking when we talk about what we're going to select to see in these situations. When, yes, the options are endless. We have all the cards on the table. You can go left, right, upside down, backwards. But really, if you just want that one thing, let's just be looking for that one thing. We don't need to carry the weight of everything else, of every other card, of every other possibility. Also making it way not simple. That makes it very, very complex. And I do think that makes people very tired. It makes me very tired. I wanted to ask you, though, because you brought it up, what is the difference, in your opinion, or how you would experience them, between law of attraction and law of assumption?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I am not the biggest expert on law of attraction or law of assumption. I just know based on my experience and what I have learned so far. So that's just a disclaimer. I'm not
we love the disclaimer.
Yeah. So law of attraction is more like attracts like, divine timing. It will happen whenever it's meant to, and nothing that is not for me will ever not find me. Or saying that in an easier way to understand, everything always works out for me. And it all happens at the right time. Law of assumption is very much, you are in control of your reality, and you had it as soon as you said you did. You don't have to wait for anything. If your beliefs can be that strong, things can shift for you like that. And I started messing around with this because I know how strong my mind is. I know that it all starts here. And sometimes, again, because you can't see it, you don't think it's that simple. You don't think it's that easy. And when you allow yourself to be open to that, like what I did, things started shifting really quickly. So I started using the law of assumption consciously back in May. I had my biggest month in my business. I made $23,000.
Woo.
And okay. Have you ever seen those people online posting about manifestation? They're like, I just let it all go and it came to me.
Yeah, of course.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Basically. So it's like reverse engineering with the law of assumption. So let's say for me in that month, I had a goal in my business. It wasn't 23K for sure. I had a goal that I was going to reach the next rank in my business and that I was going to make a certain amount of sales. That was like what I focused on. And all I did was assume that I had already gotten it. So as opposed to like breaking down your goals into micro goals and knowing that if I hit the micro goals, it's going to hit the macro. That's like kind of like the law of attraction in a way, how I see it. The law of assumption is, yeah, I just hit my goal like that. And you become the person who has the thing you want. It's all about identity and self-concept. You become the person who has the thing you want. You embody the identity, you assume it. You know how people are like, assume the position? That's the law of assumption.
Oh, it's a little bit fake it till you make it.
Not quite.
Not quite. Ooh.
Because fake it till you make it is you haven't made it yet.
Yeah, you're acknowledging you're not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A law of assumption is I'm here. What's next? That's why I said with grad school, I was thinking about where am I going to live? What am I going to be doing? How's my life going to be different? I had already assumed that I made it. Versus law of attraction is it's going to happen in divine timing. I'm going to get the email right when I'm supposed to. And if I'm meant to be there, I will.
I see.
Law of assumption is it's mine.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
sometimes people have trouble with it because I did. Because it's like you're declaring things over your life and you're decreeing it over your life. That's why you have to be really sure that it's what you want. You have to be really like, no, this is happening for me. And when you assume the identity of the person that has what you want, you don't have to think about how to get there because in your mind, you're already there.
Right.
So what happened for me in my business is I had assumed that I had gotten that rank that I wanted to for my promotion, and I had assumed that I had made the amount of sales that I wanted to, and I was acting from that identity. So law of attraction Monica, who had those goals, might be thinking, in order for me to get there, I have to, because I am on social media, I have to post a certain amount of times a day, I have to respond to my messages a certain amount of times a day, like all of these checking the boxes. With the law of assumption version of me, I don't have to worry about how I'm getting there because I already got there. And again, it's the aspect that you can't see it, so you're like, but I feel like I'm delusional, yet that's how you get to it. Because there would be times where I'd be like, oh, how am I going to get these sales? And then I'd be like, well, I already have the sales. The version of me that has the sales isn't worrying about how to get them. It's like the CEO of a company isn't figuring out how to become CEO. They're already CEO.
But you're doing.
Yes.
You're already doing. You're already there. And I don't mean to be negative.
No, it's
but
okay.
What happened? Like, have you had something that you felt this way about and then it didn't work out?
Absolutely.
And how do you bounce back from that?
That's why I was scared to decree things over my life.
Totally.
That's
I live
why
in that.
that's why I was nervous. That's why for anyone who's ever been scared to like tell someone a goal because you don't think you're going to get to it, that's and I've had that so many times.
Yeah.
It's just knowing what you will not settle for. It's like anything below, here's what I want, anything below here, that's not happening. It's not even an option.
Yeah.
Like I said with grad school, I didn't apply to other universities because I wouldn't go anyways. Right? So you have to be really in tune with yourself and know what you want. And so like if you aren't there yet, if you don't exactly know and you're not exactly sure, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that very, I think some people see it as more like aggressive or like dominant, being in control of your life kind of feeling. You can still work on your self-concept and your core beliefs in a more vague way. So how I would recommend, like, let's say me in that position for my business, I could have worked on self-concept of, I'm really good at making sales. I'm really good at posting online and being on social media. I know what I'm doing. You can work on your self-concept without having to have those very strict goals, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that's what I would recommend for maybe someone who's like, I don't really necessarily know, or I'm kind of scared that this won't happen for me. Work on the core beliefs. Work on that first rather than the more specific things. Because it has happened so many times where I had a goal and I didn't hit it. And it deters you from setting another goal.
100%.
Yeah. So I would recommend, instead of working on the specific goals, which goals are great and I think everyone should have them.
Yeah, I'm very 50-50. I love them, and I also kind of, it feels a little rigid sometimes. Yeah.
Because sometimes, like where I am now after having that experience with my business, like last month I set a sales goal and then I didn't think about it again because I just assumed it was going to happen. And I'm operating from that place of like, it's already done. So now I'm just existing as me because I already have it. And naturally it will happen because that's the version of myself that I am embodying. It's that reverse engineering. So you can work on the self-concept.
Yeah, I love that. When working on a self-concept, like, do you have a practice, or like, give us the steps?
I love that. Well, first of all, there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Thank you for saying that, because that is a huge part of meditation that I didn't understand for the longest amount of time. Actually, Eric and I had a conversation about this one. People have really rigid ideas of what meditation looks like, manifesting looks like, usually laying on the floor, closing your eyes, taking the time to think like, this will come to me, this will come to me. And yet it is not like a one size fits all thing, and there's no way to do it. And I actually am going to shout out this book that everyone's going to be like, that is a random book to bring up for this. Christine Quinn from Selling Sunset, or formerly on Selling Sunset, has a book. It's called How to Be a Boss Bitch. And this is the number one part that I stood out to me about the book and I thought was genius. She talks about in the book how she really wanted to live in this house that she was showing. And so when she went to that house and was showing it, she would bring her mail there and open it there and be like, I'm in this house. She would cook in the house and like use the bathroom in the house. And like, she was manifesting this house one day being hers. And eventually her and her husband did end up buying this house. But like, it wasn't her laying on the floor being like, this house will be mine. This house will be mine. And now I find myself like being in the car being like, I'm driving myself to this dream thing I want. Like, I will literally put myself in that mindset. Yes. It is so not just only, not saying that sitting on the ground and meditating also has a space, but like, it's not only one thing. So yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that, because we're all different. Like, every person is living their life from their past experiences, from their current identity and their experiences that they had that create that identity. So there is no right or wrong way to do it. The most important thing is like, what makes you feel in alignment with that thing, or like an energetic match. So when I was on my healing journey, I did a lot of meditations and I would visualize myself healthy, specific things. I had inflammation in my left leg. I would visualize my legs being the same size. And that made me feel like I was that version of myself. For you, when you're driving somewhere, it's the embodiment. You want to feel like you're going to that place, even if in this moment in time you're not. You're going somewhere else. It could be laying down on the floor. It could be journaling, or it could simply be, if you want a Ferrari, go test drive one, even if you know you're not going to buy it for however many years. Yeah. So my practice, I love Pinterest. I love scrolling on Pinterest, and I have specific boards for certain things, and then I have specific boards for like my vision. I also have, I don't know if you know about this, I just found out about this. I'm like, am I late to the game, or am I like onto something? You can set up your phone, if you have an iPhone, to have like 2 different setups.
No, I don't know this.
Okay, so you know how when you turn on the do not disturb feature, there's like a work mode, and there's a sleep mode. So for work mode, I have a completely different wallpaper. It's a vision board. Yes.
I need this.
I'll have to show you.
Yeah, you'll have to show me this.
After we finish. Yeah. I have a different set of apps on my home screen. Like, it literally doesn't show you all of your apps. So like, I only see the things I need for during work time.
Oh, fuck, I need this.
Yeah. And you can still search other apps. Like, it's not like it doesn't
pull
go
it
away.
Up. It doesn't push you out.
But it just, and so I feel like when my phone's in work mode, I'm like this boss babe business, like CEO, like whatever. And so I love vision boards. I love that. I also love speaking out the things that I am calling in as if they're already happened, because I love using my voice, and it's almost like a different way to pray in a way.
Yeah. Do you sit like in the mirror, you wake up and say this, or
When I walk.
when you walk?
I love walking. I just started implementing, like, really prioritizing walking like a few months ago, and it's been great. I've been like 8 to 10K steps a day.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh my gosh, it's changed everything. It does take time.
Yeah, it takes time.
It does take time.
You got to build it up.
Yeah, so that's why I'll do the habit stacking where I'm walking and I'm doing something else. So outside of the actual things I'm doing, what matters the most is how I feel when I'm doing it. If I sit there and tell myself, you're going to meditate and you're going to think about all these things you want, and it feels like I'm doing it because I think I have to, that's not going to get me closer to what I want. When I look at those Pinterest boards, I feel so expansive. I feel so abundant. I feel so whatever these identity characteristics that I want are. So it's about the feeling. The feeling is the secret. That is a really good, you can listen to it on YouTube. It's a book.
Yeah.
The feeling is the secret, and it is very similar to like law of assumption things.
Love it.
So that's why I said there's no right or wrong way, because it's how do you feel? Do you feel like you are a match for that thing, or do you feel like you're not? If that makes sense.
Talking kind of about alignment. How do you because we were just talking about how we kind of have people in our lives, and maybe even me a little bit, you don't know where the next door is. And you're kind of looking like, how do you open yourself to alignment?
That's a really, really loaded question. I love it though. I love it. Yeah,
good.
yeah. So, gosh, I think everyone who is on a spiritual journey, they have their own definition of alignment. And I think a lot of times we feel like if we're not perfectly aligned, perfectly in tune, if I didn't get my 8 hours of sleep, like this and that, I think we tend to overthink it a lot of times. For me, being in alignment is simply being in the present moment and embodying the things that I'm calling in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't have to necessarily be on my A game. Like right now, I'm kind of tired. I just did an event that I was speaking at. I did a podcast right before I came to LA for the event. Like, I'm really tired right now, yet this is my third speaking engagement within a week and a half. So I'm on top of the world right now. I am feeling very aligned with what I want. I think it's just, is the step in front of me on the path to where I want to go? Or is it not on the path? And it could be like, truly, the simplest switch to being in alignment is reminding yourself what you're grateful for in this moment, and reminding yourself that you're living out something that you wanted in the past. Because for me, when I do that, I'm like, oh, I am on the right path. Yeah. I'm just so focused on the things that I want next on the path. I don't realize I'm actually on the same path.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I mean, I talk about this a lot in acting, and I've recently, I would say in the past year, had this mindset shift. And because, acting is something that we see a lot of like celebrity and fame attached to, a lot of people go into the career, which is totally fine. I'm not adding it.
Yeah.
Chasing those things a little bit, and, being the stars on TV and whatnot. That's what a lot of people categorize a career in acting as. However, a true career in acting looks a lot like you work, you don't work. You audition, you might not audition for a while. It is such an ebb and flow, and that is just as equal part of the experience as being an actor as being a series regular on your favorite TV show. That is, you're still an actor, you're aligned in that place, but yes, we only choose to see certain things at certain times, yet I would still say I'm going through that season. We've been in a strike. We've been through COVID. I haven't had all the acting opportunities I thought I would have. I'm still in alignment because it's what I want to do. It's not all like so clean. It's like the saying about there are a million different paths to get to Rome is really true. Like, it's not always going to be so straight, so linear. So I wanted to ask you about the gratitude in it, because I think that's how can you always come back to gratitude? Yeah.
Well, before I answer that, I wanted to say about the whole alignment thing. Like, if you truly have those like beliefs that everything is working out for me and I'm on the path I'm supposed to be, you're not questioning if you're in alignment. Because you know you're in, it's like, if I were to ask you like, Marley, do you believe that you have two hands or do you know you have two hands?
I know I have two hands.
Yeah, you don't have to say I believe it. So it's like, if you know you're in alignment, you don't have to wonder, am I in alignment? And again, that's similar to the law of assumption, because it's like you're acting from that place of like, yeah, it's fine. And so that's where a lot of the work comes in for the core beliefs, because if you're constantly second guessing, am I on the right track? Am I in alignment? Then you know that you don't quite fully know you are. Even if you could be, the fact that you're second guessing it is taking you, I guess I would say, like, you need to put some grease on the wheels of your roller coaster of life.
Yeah, I would say that too. I would totally say that too. That, like, yes, you might be in the place, but you're expanding your brain and energy to go everywhere there. Like, just trust the process a little more.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you really are trusting the process, you don't have to remind yourself you are. And sometimes we need those reminders.
Yeah.
I need them too all the time.
Sure.
So, okay, going back to the whole gratitude thing.
Yes.
I feel like, because gratitude right now with manifestation, all these things are super trendy online.
Super.
And it's easy to be like, yeah, I'm so grateful for what I have, even if you feel like maybe it's not enough. I know for me, if I think about like the fact that I have it's really the most cliche tiny things. Like, I have legs that work. I have a mouth that can eat food. I have eyes that can see. Like, there are people who don't have that. And I truly believe that we are given everything we need to make it work to get to where we want with our dreams. I mean, we've heard some crazy stories about people who've been through the most adverse experiences and they're living out their dream. And if we can come back to the sheer fact that we have things to be grateful for, we have blessings all around us, just tapping into that miracle mindset, because everything is subject to change.
Yeah.
You could get a call right after we finish for an acting gig that changes your whole trajectory of your career. It could happen. I think we forget that. And when I tap into gratitude, it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I didn't think I would be on this podcast. I didn't think I would be XYZ in life. I didn't think I would be this healthy, whatever it could be. We literally are given everything we need. We just sometimes don't think it's enough. And when we tap into gratitude, we see what we have rather than what we don't. And again, what you focus on grows. Where you put your energy and attention, that's where everything's going to flow to. So if I know that, why would I choose to focus on things that I don't have? If I know that where my attention goes is where energy flows. If I know that, now if I believe it, if I know that, why would I choose? It's a conscious choice. And that's why I think we get tripped up, because it's so simple. If I know that and I make that choice, then I'm good.
Yeah. It all comes back to filtering out that pasta water.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so simple. That's why we get tripped up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Monica, you are a wealth of knowledge as always. Thank you for coming back on the podcast. You have to tell everybody where we can find you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course.
My main platform is Instagram. That's @ Monica Ren, REN. Also on TikTok, also on YouTube. And I'm kind of changing my content flow
we love
right
it.
now.
Tell us.
So Instagram's going to be a lot more business heavy. TikTok is going to be a lot more like me, my lifestyle, my day-to-day. I'm going to do more vlogs, more of like, I guess you could call it like influencer content. I don't really like that term, but I'm shifting things. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. And as always, we'll see you next Tuesday.